All right, welcome back, everybody. Bitcoin back above 7K, altcoins pumping. Is this the real deal rally, or are we just consolidating? The volume is looking kind of low. So we'll take a look at all that. If you like these videos, hit that like, comment, subscribe, tick the bell for notifications. This is Crypto Rolly, the crypto watch that never stops. Live technical analysis, price predictions, and trading. Remember, these are my own ideas and opinions on the market. Do your own research, trade at your own risk. I am not your financial advisor. All right, let's look at the market. 36 days away from the halving. We'll get to that point in a second. Bitcoin up 6% in the last 24 hours. Real volume 1.5 billion. So we're getting that volume finally in. Over the weekend, it was just dead. That's why we didn't really get any moves. It was just chopping sideways. Finally, CME's open. We start to see that movement and we get a real breakout. But the volume's still lackluster. I'll get into that shortly. Ethereum up 15%. So is Ethereum leading the alt rally? It appears that way. EOS 13%. Stellar up 14%. Not sure why Stellar is pumping, but everyone's pumping. Even the stock markets are pumping today. Okay, so the Crypto Fear and Greed Index last night was still down at a 12. 10 hours till the next update. So if we maintain this price or higher, I'm sure we'll start to climb up here. We have been stuck in this low region for a very long time due to the global fear. Usually whenever we dip this low, we have a nice bounce, but these are different uncertain times. So the block halving 36 days away. This is important because we are about 4 to 5 weeks away from the halving. If you go to our previous halvings, let's zoom out on the Bitstamp chart. If you zoom out, you can see on the previous one, it was about 5 weeks before this halving, you had a sell-off, and then immediately after the rally began. In the second halving, it was about 4 weeks, I believe, that we had the sell-off before it, and then even after, it was another continued 4 weeks of sell-off, and then you rallied up. So what's important is we're in that same time range right here, and we have the halving right here. So that's what happened in the previous two. Doesn't mean we have to have a sell-off now, but if we were to repeat history, we would have a sell-off somewhere around here, and then either bounce after the halving, or we continue lower. So you have basically, if you're going to repeat what happened in the previous halvings, you have two options right here. You have sell-off, okay? And then you can have a immediate rally, or you could have continued sell-off. All right, and so maybe this stays within the symmetrical triangle. Now, if we break the symmetrical triangle, things could be looking a little different. But as long as we're in this, this major symmetrical triangle, flag pattern, we could still maintain a bullish narrative. If you start breaking that, you're going to start possibly retesting, that 3K, 4K region that we don't want to see, okay? But that's what we're looking at a month out of the halving. Going down to the 4 hour, let's take a look at that. So this is the main issue here. I see falling volume still. If this was an ascending triangle formation, which it definitely looks like, and it looks like we're breaking out of it, I wanted to see more of a pop right here, and then a follow through, like large volume. If you look at the 2018 bottom, we can see that we had something similar to that. You can see it down here. This trend line's kind of in the way, so let me hide those. Okay, so yeah, we were in an ascending triangle formation here, and we blasted through with a large pump candle there, okay? And you can see when you broke this consolidation, how the volume stepped in. You can see the volume still kind of falling here. I mean, if we continue pumping today, maybe we do see that candle. So price is above 7,200 right now, 7,245. So, maybe we do get that follow through. So let me go down to the 4 hour, look at these trend lines a little more closely. If the volume's low, are we just floating in this rising wedge pattern is the only thing that, we're concerned about here. You still have a rising trend line pattern here. If Bitcoin comes down and breaks below, this trend line, and then breaks below this trading price range that we were stuck in all weekend, that 6,700 region. You start breaking below here, that could initiate a larger dump, I would say. Okay. The fact that we were pent up like that as well, we were held down by major resistance coming across here, and we're just getting this weak little rally is also kind of makes me a bit hesitant. And guys, in the group, so guys, if you do want to join the limited time free Discord group, the information and links down below. I'm posting alt charts, Bitcoin charts, calls, and you can see on this Ethereum last night, I pointed out, Bitcoin was breaking out. I said, pick your favorite coin. Everything's going to follow if Bitcoin breaks out. And you can see this triangle, this ascending triangle pattern on Ethereum. And Ethereum, that's what a breakout looks like, guys. So if you're interested in joining, the link is down below. But my point is we did take a trade down here, 67.90. We had targets of 7,000, 7.2. Those targets were hit, okay? And that was the breakout from this point. We had a trend line here coming down like that. So we did break out of that. I want to see what we do in this region here. Otherwise, you're still risking falling down. So let's look at all of the indicators and see, where our main resistance is and all that. So let's keep it moving. Hit that like for me, guys, one more time if you haven't. So looking at our moving averages, it was great to see that we have reclaimed the 200 EMA and the 200 simple. If you take a look at the 4-hour, those 200 moving averages, you can see how they play out in the past. So we're back above it here, okay? So once we lost it here, we've been in this little downtrend. So you lost it here and then was retested, rejected, and dumped. And we were sitting under it as resistance. So the fact that we're above it is good to see. Now, if we do get a little short-term pullback, we could come back down to retest it around 69.15. I'm thinking maybe 7K will actually hold, but you're looking at that there. You zoom out, you can see as well, when beginning of the year when we broke above it, that was when we started our rally. So we were beneath it, we bottomed, broke above it, rallied. So are we doing the same thing, or are we getting a little bit of a fake out? As you can see here, we had a fake out and there a fake out. It was the third attempt, and currently it looks like we're on our second attempt. We tried to break it out here. We're breaking out now. Do we find support above it or dump back beneath? We'll have to see. But, if we can find support above it, it looks good. Usually on a macro level, that's a good sign to see. So let me go back to the regular ones, throw them all back on there. All right. 72.59. It's going for it. 7,300 was a potential resistance before, but the moving averages have changed. We'll get to that point. I see on the 377 on the 4-hour at 74.28. Your Stokes are still rising and looking good. So, until the Stokes cross back down, the rally still has validity to me. So if this crosses back down, that could be, a sign of that short-term pullback. Your RSI, you're getting a new high on the RSI, so that's not, let me change the color on here so you can see a little better. I don't see bearish divergence right now. If we had formed a local top here and we had a higher high, and then on the RSI you had a high and a lower high, that would have been bearish divergence. But you're getting that higher high and the RSI is rising as well, so still looks pretty good here. Okay, so the point of me saying what my trade was we hit our targets, and now if I bought right here, it's kind of a dangerous place to buy. You're risking buying the top. If you do buy in, you have to be looking at very short-term time frames. You have a bit of a pattern here I was looking at, but I didn't want to take that trade considering we just had a great trade. I'd rather see like a pullback. But if you're looking at short-term time frames, you could see that we were kind of flagging out ascending triangle and we broke bullish, and now if we can consolidate above 7,200, that's also good. But yeah, I'm looking for more of a pullback opportunity for a long. So, a pullback and a bounce. Otherwise, if we pull back and it's looking bearish, I might short, depending on the levels that we hit. Okay, so let's keep it moving with our indicators. I can look at the Bollinger Bands just real quick. 1 second. Bollinger Bands, we did bounce off of the middle BB here, and we are closing 4 hour candles above the upper band. And getting that's bullish. As long as you're still closing those candles above the upper trend, this rally is still good. You start closing beneath the upper band, you might start, flagging out sideways or dump down to retest this middle BB, which is at 68.45. And if you go to the Ichimoku cloud, you're well above your support as well. So, if you do have a short-term pullback, this is going to be at 69.70 currently. Let's go to the 12-hour. Doing well on time. So it's been 11 minutes. The 12-hour looks like it's breaking out. You're above your support here at 69.36. So, 69 to 7,000 is what we're looking at for a short-term pullback if we get a pullback. And you're in the bullish zone of the Bollinger Bands on the 12 hours. So that looks good, but you are hitting that resistance level right now as well. So, that's why I was saying you want to long bounce opposed to trying to long the top. If you do, you have to be very careful and, pretty much ready to exit real fast. Otherwise, you'll be underwater potentially. Okay, so looking at the moving averages, this is also the resistance we're hitting on the 12-hour. It's this red 100 EMA 72.40, and we're banging up against that right now. Your support is down here, 68.76, the blue 10 simple. You can see how we found support above the 50 EMA, and now testing this. If you are able to close the 12-hour above 72.40, you could target the 200 EMA at 77.46, right? So, which makes sense. If we get a large time frame candle close above that level, now we've beaten 7,200. We're talking about 7,700, 7,800. Okay. Your stochastics are on the 12-hour are pointed up, so that looks good too for the time being. And you don't have bearish divergence yet, right? So that all looks pretty good to me. Go to the daily. On the daily, we're also hitting that resistance, is why this was a target area, not an area I wanted to buy, but an area I wanted to sell. I'm not going to short right now, but I wanted to sell my margin long. Okay, so we found support above the yellow 21 EMA, which is at 66.94 now, and we hit the resistance, the orange 50 EMA at 72.40. So 12-hour, so the next candle close on the 12-hour is going to be the same as the daily. So if the daily closes above 72.40, we can target 7,700. All right, so there we'll say Bitcoin closes the daily at 72.50 to be safe. We can target 7,700. I'm gonna write that down. Above 72.50, 7,700. Just a possible target. Always want to keep stops. Always want to play it safe, minimal risk. Look for a good opportunity to get in. But that's just basic guideline. Okay. And then the Bollinger Bands, we're hitting that resistance right there as well, okay? You can see that clear. So we need to close above it, and that would involve closing the daily above the upper band, which is pretty bullish. I'm trying to see if we have any other examples of that. You had one here where you closed above the daily upper band, and then you had a nice pop after that as well, okay? But we are at resistance, guys, all right? Let's see what else. The Ichimoku clouds we could look at. So, and also the Ichimoku cloud resistance right here. But if we can get above this level, which is at 71.75 on the daily, maybe we can consolidate above here and make that attempt at the 7,700, 7,800, which lines up with this price action and why a lot of people have a target there, okay? Your daily Stokes are also crossed up and looking good at the moment. So no reason for me to short right now, but we're at resistance, so I need to be patient, okay? Now, if we break that rising trend line I was showing at the top of the video, or we close the daily back beneath the blue conversion line, which is, 65.59, it closed back below there, that would start looking like this is just a relief rally and we could potentially drop farther. Same with the moving averages. If we close back beneath the yellow 21 EMA and the blue 10 simple, then this looks like just a relief rally, and then a sell-off will come. So we're in this range right here. I want to see us close above it. Otherwise, we could get a retest down and you could potentially buy a bounce. That's just my game plan. All right, so it's been 15 minutes. We can look at the weekly real quick, and then just a couple alts, especially like Ethereum bounced like that. The weekly, was a nice bullish candle here. The only thing is we are underneath this resistance at 72, 7,300. Your 100 EMA on the weekly is 7,300, so you could see resistance there. I'm talking about 7,200, 7,250. But as far as a weekly time frame, you're going to want to close above the 7,300 level, okay? And that's also, not only do we have the moving average there, but you also have this previous price action. And the reason that, support is now flipped resistance, if you think about it, is say people bought in down here. They called the bottom. They saw this, this downtrend. They called the bottom, or maybe they just got into crypto. Maybe it was January, beginning of the year purchase, whatever it is. They bought here. A lot of people bought here. You can see all that price action. Now, it just dropped on them. If they didn't have stop loss, they didn't take profit, it just dropped on them. They are praying to God that it gets back to their entry so that they can just close out at break even. People are still worried that, we're going to be in a recession and a depression, okay? So there's definitely people who would love the opportunity to exit at break even. So that's why the support now flipped resistance, okay? Weekly Stokes hinting for a cross up, Of course, this is not confirmed. If this weekly candle drops, this blue guy right here, can just straighten out, okay? But if we continue upwards, this blue guy will go for a confirmation, okay? So this is just the first hint of a cross up on the weekly. So potentially bullish news there. Ichimoku Cloud. Above this resistance line is the resistance line on the weekly Ichimoku Cloud 71.75. So above that, we'll have to follow up at the end of the week. All right. Looking at Bitcoin dominance, we'll do a quick little altcoin review. Okay. So if you're looking at Bitcoin dominance, we can see it's dropping right now. Kind of looks like the Bitcoin chart. We had the sell-off, a rally, and instead of it rallying higher, it's actually selling off right at this point. And this is because the alts, Bitcoin went up 6%. The alts go up 10 to 15%. The Bitcoin dominance drops. So if this rising wedge on the dominance chart continues to drop, that means that the altcoins are going to be outperforming Bitcoin. So good time to start looking possibly at the altcoins. However, you can see with the rise in the dominance, the altcoins were underperforming Bitcoin. So possibly the altcoins were just catching up. Where Bitcoin was going, more up like that, the altcoins had more of a flat rise. So they were behind and then they rose, catching up. Okay, so let's look at Ethereum. In case Ethereum continues to be bullish, maybe there's something underlying that we don't know about. So let's take a look at Ethereum. We can look at our moving averages on the weekly. Ethereum is coming up on its 21 EMA resistance on the weekly. And the 21 EMA is very important. We've talked about this with Bitcoin. Above it is going to be, a bull market, below it a bear market. And, we were beneath it for a while. Once we broke this downtrend, we were all talking about possible bull market, and we had our sell-off. We're back beneath it, and now we're retesting it. So, we're right here. So if we do get rejected, this would be an area where it would make the most sense. Now, we don't have to get rejected here. This was a kind of a black swan event, so maybe we're just bouncing back from it. But I would say, pay attention to the weekly, because if we can close back above the 21 EMA, maybe the crypto market is actually recovering, So otherwise, this is where you would see a rejection. Most likely, you can see how you were, held as resistance here, resistance here, resistance here. So, breakout, retest, okay? So not the best place, I think, to jump in. Let's go to the daily, take a look at the daily. So, this, we were, flirting with the yellow 21 EMA, and then we tagged our 50 EMA target, currently above it. The 50 EMA is at $163.70. We're at 166. So a nice close above that. Looks good. And then you have your 200 pink simple and 200 green EMA right here as resistance. And that's another type of moving average that's key on macro levels, where the 21 EMA on the weekly, well, on the daily, you also want to be above the 200 moving averages if you're bullish. Beneath it is bearish. So we're getting that test. The same place that we're testing it here on the daily, we're testing it there on the weekly, okay? So this is going to be a critical resistance here. So we'll just keep, the volume here looks a little better on Ethereum. So maybe Ethereum, was leading that pump. So going over to, let's just look at Tezos, Link, XRP, and call it a day. So Tezos, was stuck in this little, channel here. Closing back above the 21 EMA on the daily looks good. Your resistance at $1.95, $1.96 right there. So if you already bought Tezos and you're holding the trade now and you're looking for targets, that would be your target. Would I say buy this? I don't know if I would buy the top of a pump. And looking at the 4-hour, you're coming up on resistance right here. The place to buy would have been here. Now you're just going to, jump in the middle of it. I don't know how bullish we are. It's like we're in a bear market. If this was a bull market and we had a breakout, maybe it wouldn't be as risky to jump in on a bullish move. But the fact that we are still beneath, these critical macro levels, so you got to be hesitant. And I don't see any volume here on Tezos. So, XRP, let's look at XRP real quick. XRP on the 4-hour is above its 200 EMA. Could you get a retest back down to it? Possibly. That would be down here at 18 cents. Your stochastics are looking good. The 4-hour looks good. Everything looks pretty nice here. Let me look at maybe my drawing tools real quick. So it looked like you were about to drop out of this little rising trend line here, a little fake out I see. But, the horizontal was the most important. So to get above here, you saw that breakout. Horizontals, I believe, hold more weight than diagonals, okay? So that was the resistance, and to get above it, you can see now you had that breakout. But the whole market had a breakout. You have this trading range here. So the bottom side of this could be resistance, which is at 20 cents, okay? We can look at the daily moving averages. Looks like a nice little pop right there, right? So, but you were consolidating above the 21 EMA. So this would have been more of the buy zone, and you hit your target, the 50 EMA right there at 19 cents, 0.195. All right, so you hit your target there. Now we want to see, do we close above it? Do we maintain this bullish momentum, or do we see a small pullback here? That's what we're going to be looking at pretty much across the board. Link close is above its daily 21 EMA, but you have the 200 simple at $2.61, 200 EMA at $2.72. And you can just, look at all of the coins like that. Stellar is above its 50 EMA. That was one of the better performing ones, but you are coming up on this cluster here, so that could be a resistance level too because of this cluster. If you look at Litecoin, it hasn't hit the 50 EMA, but you can see where that lines up with that cluster. I mean, like I say, all of these are pretty similar, so that's why I'll show a few, but you just pick your favorite coin. I literally said in the Discord group when I saw Bitcoin was breaking out, I just said pick your favorite coin, they're all gonna pop. And I mean, I can't be in every single coin at the same time. I mean, I could, but then I would be all in, right? So anyways, that's what we have for the day today. Let me look at Bitcoin, 72.76. Looking good, okay? Just be careful. Don't FOMO. If you're going to jump in at the top, I would look at much smaller time frames, because on the larger time frames you are hitting your resistance. You can look at like maybe the 1 hour chart. You can see we bounced off of the blue 10 simple here, and you could trail these 1 hour candles up. Like maybe had you bought here, you could be trailing the price up, just prepared for a pullback. The 1 hour is, the RSI is overbought. Your Stoke is high. If you looked at Ethereum, I think it was a much higher. You can see the RSI, overdone here. It's way up here, separated from your blue 10 simple. So you just have to be careful that you could get a test back. And the RSI could need to cool off. If you look at the 4 hour on Ethereum, I'm pretty sure 4 hour RSI is super high as well. You could get a cross down at these levels. That's all you could get. It's just, this is a slight pullback territory, but sometimes Bitcoin just decides to go on a rampage, and it leaves people in the dust. That's just kind of how it likes to do. You could go down to the 15-minute chart, and follow the blue 10 simple on the 15, or the yellow 21 EMA here. So, you bounced off it there and still going for it. But looking at Ethereum's volume, you can see a majority of it came in this pump. But to break this level, maybe you have another pump. All right. Just use your indicators, and, one step at a time, one level at a time. There's always another trade, especially if you're on margin. Up and down, no matter where the price is, you can always profit. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.